tonight, what we're going to be talking about is the truth about inflammation. And inflammation is something that really, when it comes to the clients that we deal with, pretty much everybody that we see has some level of inflammation. And inflammation is really pretty instrumental in literally every disease process. And so a lot of times when people think about inflammation, they just think about joint health, like, oh, my shoulder's inflamed, my knees inflamed, my back's inflamed, but it's gut inflammation, it's brain inflammation. There's so many things that we experience on a regular basis that really have its roots in inflammation. So we're going to talk about what to do, and then we're going to talk about really what causes inflammation. But there's so many times that people have inflammation, and what are they going to do? They're going to just suppress the symptom. And the inflammation can sometimes be the gift. So we have to be able to ascertain, is that inflammation serving us, or is that inflammation chronic and going to lead to some sort of physical malady down the road? So inflammation is really the biological response triggered by the immune system. So when irritants or pathogens are damaging cells, the immune system signals the inflammatory response. So again, our body's designed to create this response. So infections, wounds, any damage to tissue with the joints, the body's designed to create an inflammatory response as part of the healing process. But where we get into trouble many times is when we have chronic inflammation. And so that's really one of the things we want to make sure everyone understands is we need to mitigate this chronic inflammation. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So again, the good is it's really the body's first line of defense against harm. And it's our body's attempt at self-protection to begin the healing process. So this is really what's called acute inflammation. So when we have acute inflammation, that's a positive thing. So if you sprain an ankle, what's going to happen is your body's going to go into this inflammatory response. And that's really the initial healing components to the body. The bad is when there's long-term inflammation, like you said, lasting for prolonged periods of, several months to years. And of course, that's called chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation can eventually cause several diseases and things like cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, so many gastrointestinal issues begin with inflammation. So we're going to take a deeper dive into really the chronic inflammatory response. So what causes chronic inflammation? So Paula, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about cortisol. So cortisol is our stress hormone. And many times when Paula's testing people, they come up with excess stress hormones, and that could be cortisol. It could be, what do you generally find, Paula, when you're testing people?
Cortisol. The stress hormones are cortisol, noradrenaline, as well as adrenaline. So if somebody has excess adrenaline, they're not sleeping very well. Their body's in a constant fight or flight. That's a lot of times in the amygdala, which is what secretes keeps our body into that stress mode. So there could be an event or something that happened in your life that kind of sticks that amygdala into that fight or flight response. And it's what do you have to do to shut that back off again? But when we have chronic stress in our life, what happens, and that can even just be chronic stress can be from environmental toxins, chronic infections, or just life events. You go through a divorce, you have kids. I mean, a lot of stuff can cause a lot of stress in the body, death in our family. And what you want to do is you want to understand that cortisol will rise for the stress, because that's the good stress response, right? Your cortisol rises to help your body manage it. But then if the circulating cortisol, it gets to be too much. The cells sometimes cannot uptake the cortisol. That is called a cortisol So like insulin resistance, it's cortisol resistance. So your cells are resisting that cortisol, which drives your cortisol. Basically, your body thinks your cortisol is low, but your blood supply of it is super high. So it all comes down to the cell. So it's like, what is going on with the cell? So cortisol is really important to have in balance. It's not too high, it's not too low, but it's also, is the cell uptaking the right amount of cortisol so that you can manage the stress that you have? So what I always like to see is like, what's causing your cell to not be able to manage that cortisol? Because if you have low cortisol, no cortisol is Addison's disease, and high cortisol is Cushing's disease. So low cortisol would be like what JFK had. He had Addison's disease. He actually had to take cortisol every day. So it's really interesting. So it's just a matter of, it's not about necessarily the cortisol or the stress hormones, the noradrenaline. It's really, what's happening within the cell? Is my cell getting the right amount of cortisol?
Yeah. And the one thing is, when I'm seeing people with joint pain, sometimes it's what they're eating, i.e. foods that are creating systemic inflammation. They're either eating like refined carbohydrates, or they've got a food intolerance. When you have a food intolerance and you eat something, and it could be something even like a fruit or a vegetable, you have something called a IgG response, which is a delayed immune response. So I could eat a bell pepper, or I could have a piece of chicken, and that could still inflame me, because I might have a mild food irritant to that. And so food can be like medicine, or it can be like poison. So sometimes it's what we're eating. And then, just like Paula said, sometimes it's what's eating us. So, I mean, we're having to navigate so many different stressors in this crazy world we're living in right now. And so what we have to figure out is, what are our strategies to mitigate those stressors? And obviously, if you've been with us for a period of time, you kind of understand our model. We look at foods and heavy metals and chemicals and emotional stress and scars and structure. So there's a lot of variables that go into what is stressing out the body. But let's talk about the allergies that people are experiencing today, Paula. You're seeing a lot of people that are struggling with allergies right now.
Very true. We have so many there's different kinds of allergies. So I've seen everything from being allergic to alcohol recently, which I thought that was interesting, all different kinds of alcohol. It also can be seasonal allergies, which seem to be really on the rise right now. It's pretty rampant. And then also there's environmental allergies, seasonal allergies. There is food allergies, which obviously are huge. So anything can really cause an allergic response from the body. So you can be allergic to chemicals. So it would be you're smelling a perfume, and all of a sudden you get a big rash on your body. Like your body is having an allergic response to that chemical. And it's really hard to sometimes to manage, because people just don't understand. They're like, what? I just have my perfume on. Like, why can't I wear my perfume? And they don't understand that you're having like this really bad feeling. Your body just gets completely inflamed from that chemical. So you can have an allergy to a chemical. You can have an allergy to a food. You can have allergy to seasonal allergies. So there's many different things out there, but all of it is an inflammatory response, right? So your body's having an inflammation response, which is due to the immune system. So you really have to look at your immune system and say, what can I do to help support my immune system, or what's bogging down my immune system? That is, the allergy is an immune system issue. Is there a part of the immune system that needs to be addressed? The thymus, the spleen, any part of the immune system, the lymph nodes, the liver. I mean, all of it's part of the immune system. So what part? The appendix. So what part that needs to be addressed, or does the whole thing need to just be addressed overall? Is there one particular thing that's stressing out your immune system? Immune system doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be an immune challenge, such as a virus, a parasite. bacteria, fungus, mold. It can also be stress due to chemicals. So all of a sudden you breathe in something that your body does not like, and you're having an exaggerated immune response. So it's really important to deal with allergies. You have to deal with the immune system, and it's not always the same thing. It's different for every single person. It's about addressing the immune system as well as addressing inflammation and fatty acids, which is basically how your body's managing the stress levels. And fatty acids is how your body, how well is your body managing inflammation in the body. So I see that a lot. It's very stressed on people. The body's not absorbing nutrients. People aren't absorbing the nutrients like they used to, due to gut inflammation, decrease of blood flow from the heart. So if you don't have enough blood flow through your digestive system, that can cause chronic problems. Lymph flow, if you have a decrease of lymph flow in your gut or a decrease in lymph flow anywhere, you're not going to feel very good. You're not going to be able to eliminate toxins. And then there's decrease in nerve flow. So the nerve flow also is another thing. If you don't have adequate nerve flow through certain parts of your body, you're going to experience nerve issues. You're going to have nerve pain. Nerve pain is the worst pain you can possibly have. It is just unbearable at times. I mean, it is unbearable. So that means that there's not enough, the nerve, it's literally like getting stuck in that spot. So it's really important that we just kind of keep that moving, that you keep that nerve flow. So it's like, what's causing the restriction in that nerve flow in that part of the body? So that can be chemicals, that can be foods, that can be heavy metals. And it's always just looking deeper into what's causing that inflammation in that flow of the body.
Yeah, the one thing is, if we get back to just the basic fundamental foundations to our health, good, clean water, proper breathing mechanics, meditation, sleep, are your detoxification pathways all open? Meaning your liver, your kidneys, your lymphatic system, and your lymphatic system, because so many people today are not breathing properly. They're not moving their lymph. So they're not removing their waste from their body. So they've got this internal autotoxification. So they're actually experiencing the internal toxicity within their bodies. So if we are not eliminating, if you're constipated and you're not moving your lymph, you're going to be toxic. And so when someone has, maybe like Paula was talking about with perfumes, a perfume in and by itself might not bother you that much, but if you have a multitude of stressors that start piling up, then your body gets to the point where it cannot handle that whatever that additional stressor is. So the body's designed to handle the stressors, but once it gets to the point where it becomes overloaded, your body will start to manifest more and more symptoms. All right, so let's talk about just gut inflammation. Again, food can be like medicine or it can be like poison. And so I think what's critical for people to understand, and this is the one challenge that Paul and I always have when we listen to, someone that's very dogmatic about a particular methodology, a particular diet, and they think it's a one size fits all. It's just not the truth. There's some people that do really well on a carnivore diet. There's some people that are good on a vegetarian diet. There's some people that do well on a paleo diet. So what's important is that you're eating good quality food, minimally processed. And then part of this is, and this is obviously the benefit of getting tested on a regular basis, is we can identify if there's certain foods that are shutting you down or foods that you test more favorably for. So, Paul, let's get into gut inflammation. There's so many people that deal with gut inflammation. I think that's something that we really need to address.
Oh, Well, gut inflammation is huge because it just your gut microbiome, so your gut bacteria actually can increase stress hormones. Your body, that bacteria is huge for inflammation as well. So it's getting a diverse variety of really good microbes, which is really the prebiotic fibers and the fiber in your diet. So please, 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 just please understand that the most important thing you can do is make sure you get a variety of foods in your diet. Make sure you're getting, because you need that good bacteria. I would just say, even say in each meal, try to have a vegetable with each meal. Just keep it pretty simple and try to, like, okay, if you use sweet potatoes this week, next time try to use squash. The next week, try to use, some other vegetable. Just trying to get a variety of vegetables. So sometimes I like to just take, like, I'll just take a handful of like 5 carrots. I'll eat carrots and then I'm going to have my dinner. And my dinner might be like rice, like white rice with chicken or something like that. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting that variety in your gut for your digestive system. So when I talked about lymph flow and blood flow, for the gut is a really important thing. So if you're not getting adequate blood flow because of the heart or because of veins or arteries or whatever, and you're not getting blood flow through your digestive system, you could be chronically constipated because you're not moving out the excess waste via the lymph, because you have a lot of lymph in your digestive system, particularly in your small intestine. So if those are congested, you're constipated. That's end of story, period. You are constipated. You're not going to feel good. If things kind of just get shoved through and you get loose and diarrhea, that can usually be some sort of gut infection. So that can either be bad microbes, either in your colon or your small intestine, but your body's just like shoving it through. Because it's inflamed, or you're eating something that's inflaming it and your body's just trying to get rid of it. So diarrhea is just, my body is just trying to get rid of everything because it doesn't like something that I'm eating or something that's in my body. So really important, that gut flow is a really important thing. Also, so the gut microbiome is probably the hugest part of it. I do see, so the digestive system goes into 2 sections. Your upper digestive system is your stomach. You can see gut infections there too, like H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. You have pancreas. The pancreas secretes enzymes. You have hydrochloric acid to break food down. It's such a complex thing. It's like so different for every single person. So it's like, if somebody has digestive issues, is it stemming from the pancreas? I see that a lot, the stomach a lot, and I see a lot of emotional stress being held right in the stomach. So a lot of times people say my stomach hurts, but they're actually thinking their intestines, because they're pointing to their intestines or lower digestive system. But your upper stomach, the upper part right up here, is where we hold a lot of emotional stuff. Really important that we learn, like Rob talks about, like even just diaphragmatic breathing to move stuff going through there, even self-massage. A lot of times when people get massages, they actually don't massage the stomach. And when people just go, oh, I love when people when I get somebody does actually massage my stomach. But you can do that to yourself and just make sure that you're just loosening up that, because it is a muscle. So we want it to be nice and relaxed so that it can digest the food properly and just in a really good way. And then your liver, a lot of times our liver is congested. So it's really important to just go, okay, lemon water, warm lemon water right away in the morning. They always say that's one of the best ways to kind of keep that open for the liver. Your small intestine is where you absorb your nutrients. If you have a lot of swollen lymph there, you're not able to absorb those nutrients. Well, that's a problem because you're going to chronically be deficient in certain nutrients. Nothing will inflame your body more than having nutrient deficiencies. Nutrient deficiencies, there's an old doctor, Rob could probably remember his name, but Dead Doctors Don't Lie. His biggest thing was
Dr. Joel Wallach.
Okay, Dr. Joel Wallach. So what happened, his biggest thing was like each nutrient causes, the nutrient deficiencies cause different diseases in the body. I mean, that was, I think, the 1980s or 70s or something they came up with that. That was, I mean, it's a really ahead of its time. He was very ahead of his time. But really fascinating, like just each thing and understanding how only one nutrient deficiency can cause a plethora of different things that happen within the body. So I would say the digestive system, if you're not absorbing your nutrients there, everything can be off. So just definitely make sure the digestive system is good. If that's good, then you can look to other things. But I usually like to start there.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned with the lemon juice, lemons are high in hydrochloric acid. And as we age, most people tend to have more compromised digestive systems. So they're not producing the same enzymes that we used to. And then, of course, some people are not producing enough hydrochloric acid. So the lemon juice is really excellent with the warm water, like Paula said, to start your day. Another thing too is because so many people have high levels of emotional stress. And there's two branches of our autonomic nervous system. We've got our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, and then we have our sympathetic, which is fight or flight. So if you're watching the news, or you just had an argument with a friend, a family member, a spouse, and then you go to eat, you go from being in fight or flight to now what should be a parasympathetic activity, and your digestion is going to suffer. So one of the things, if you struggle with digestion, one of the things I recommend is just taking 10 deep diaphragmatic breaths before you eat. So just in case you are in that fight or flight or that sympathetic upregulated state, you can now go to a parasympathetic where you go rest and digest. So it's super important when you're eating. Ideally, we don't want to be eating when we're driving. I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. But then also try and be in a good, quiet place and be conscious of the activity. You want to chew our food thoroughly, approximately about 30 to 35 times per bite to optimize digestion. And in order for us to assimilate these nutrients, we have to make sure we have optimal digestion. And like Paula said, many times people, in fact, we've had to actually redefine what constipation is. I mean, people think just because they might have a bowel movement, they're not constipated, but we need to be eliminating about 6 to 12 inches of matter every single day. And if you're not, you can have a bowel movement and still be constipated. So we got to be very cognizant because it does start with digestion. So let's talk about some of the symptoms of chronic inflammation, Paula. We've got body pain. Of course, that's what I see all the time. In fact, many times when we used to do our 21-day challenges, I mean, obviously the big driver was weight loss, but I could not believe how many people that maybe had nagging pain in their shoulder or their back or their knees or their hips. And that pain would go away because a lot of it was systemic inflammation they were getting rid of. But chronic fatigue, insomnia, depression, anxiety, mood disorders, weight gain, frequent infections, these are all symptoms of chronic inflammation. And so when it comes to these things, let's take a look at blood sugar, Paula. Let's talk about just blood sugar regulation, glucose, and how that can control inflammation.
Probably the number one thing that I see that causes inflammation is an imbalance of blood sugar. It causes so many problems, but nerve pain is probably the number one thing that it causes. And as I said before, there is nothing worse than nerve pain. Nerve pain is really debilitating. I mean, it's beyond, if you've ever had nerve pain, it's beyond a muscle pain. That's a very different pain. It can't even explain it unless you've had it. It is so irritating. So nerve pain is one of those things. So, but probably women in their midlife is probably the biggest time you see the chronic inflammation happening, rising up. And the reason for that is a lot of times can be due to blood sugar, because your ovaries start producing less and less and less and drives down to zero estrogen, just zero. And your estrogen decreases inflammation in the body, decreases weight. It helps with so many things. Your inflammation just drives right up. Your adrenal glands are supposed to take over to be able to produce more sex hormones for you, but they're tired at this point. They're like, I can't do it anymore. They're exhausted. So a lot of times that puts a lot of pressure on your pancreas. So chronic blood sugar issues causes chronic blood sugar issues, and chronic cortisol actually causes chronic insulin issues, and high insulin actually keeps you in a chronic inflammatory response, and as well as keeps your weight not happy and not in a good place. When if you have high insulin, you're storing body fat like crazy. So, and you're inflamed and you don't feel good. So there's so many things.
Paul, I think a
Yeah.
great story is, so Paul and I did a glucose monitor. And so we were wearing our glucose monitor for a couple of weeks. And I think, in my opinion, it's ridiculous that it requires a prescription, because I think it's such valuable information that everyone could benefit from. But you have to be really careful, because foods that you would never think would raise your blood sugar, like, wasn't it beans for you, Paula? That was
Black
really
beans.
black
Black
beans.
beans just jacked up my blood, but my blood sugar went through the roof, and I felt terrible with just black beans by themselves. Whereas when I had sugar, it barely moved when I had sugar. When I had black beans, it was like whoop, and I just felt terrible. So every food's different, like you said.
Yeah, and for me it was oats. And I was doing a lot of oatmeal. Paula would call it my goulash, where I would take protein powder and oatmeal and almond butter, and I would mix it up. And it was crazy, because for the most part, I was eating pretty clean and still gaining body fat, and just felt a little bit sluggish. And once I got the monitor and identified that it was oats, that was really spiking my blood sugar. And then, of course, I was creating more insulin. Insulin is your fat storing hormone. And for me, an area that, in terms of when I increase my body fat, it's always around not necessarily my midsection at my belly button. It's more of my hips on that, the love handle area, because that's where that excess circulating insulin, that's where you'll store more excess body fat. And it's so frustrating sometimes when you feel like you're doing a lot of things, like, I'm eating clean, I'm eating healthy, I'm making healthy choices. We have to qualify the statement healthy for who. So just because a food is healthy for you doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy for a friend or a family member. And of course, that's what makes being married and having a family a little bit more challenging, because our biochemistries are different. And then of course, our stress loads are different. Some of us in the family might have more emotional stress. Some of us might have problems with our detoxification pathways. So food can really affect us quite differently. Anything to add to that, Paula?
No, I think that's about right. Yep, that's good.
Okay, so again, when we get to chronic inflammation, virtually every disease, we think about asthma, cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. And if we look at the neurocognitive diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's, it's really type 3 diabetes. And so a lot of that has to do with blood sugar regulation. And that's why controlling inflammation through our diet is so critical. But then even periodontitis, we've got sinusitis, Crohn's, colitis. These are all things that are related to chronic inflammation. Now, remember, acute inflammation is okay, but chronic inflammation is not. So let's get into some of the risk factors. Some of the risk factors associated with chronic inflammation is age. Now, there's nothing we can do about our chronological age, but we can control the aging process. We're changing with our digestion. We're changing hormonally. Our sex hormones are decreasing. But the one thing we have a significant, the one thing that we can significantly control is our lifestyle. For instance, our sleep, our nutrition, stress mitigation through breath work or meditation. Let's talk a little bit, Paula, about what we can do to mitigate some of these things. Like, for instance, let's talk about vitamin D, which is really classified more as a hormone, but Paul and I are really, really big believers in everybody being on vitamin D, D3K2. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Paula?
Well, the basically vitamin D is really it's a very, very important. It's a pro-hormone. It's not necessarily just a vitamin. It's actually a pro-hormone. So it's really important that you keep it at the level it should be at. I can't use the word everyone because I test a lot of people and not everyone tests for it. So to me, it's just a matter of are we getting enough sun? Is our body retaining enough of vitamin D? Also, you want to be able to get vitamin K with the vitamin D generally. I'm saying that generally because I have people that are on medications that can't take vitamin K. So it's really just one of those things. It's an individual thing. Generally, vitamin D with vitamin K. Vitamin K tells the vitamin D where to go within the body. When you look at probably the source, I would say your big source of your immune system would be your thymus gland. Your thymus gland it actually secretes something called your killer T cells. The T cells is what actually goes after your immune system and can wipe out whatever's going on. The main thing that will increase that is vitamin D. So when you're feeding your thymus gland your vitamin D, you're increasing your killer T cells to increase that immune system and be able to kill off any immune challenges that are happening, or just increasing your immune system to a level to be able to deal better with chemical sensitivities out there, any type of a sensitivity that you have. So I do love vitamin D, Rob. Is there anything else that you want me to add to that?
Yeah, the one thing is, well, in terms of vitamin D, like Paula said, not everyone tests for it. And it's just like any supplement, whether you're talking about some of your fish oils, whether you're talking digestive enzymes or hydrochloric acid, everybody's different. Biochemical individuality trumps everything. And so remember, there's genetics and then there's epigenetics. And epigenetics is nutrition and lifestyle. But because there are so many variables that go into the epigenetics, and we take a look at, like we've been talking about, immune challenges like bacteria and viruses and funguses and the chemical toxins that we have to deal with and the heavy metals and more emotional stress now than there's probably ever been. So we are bombarded with all these stress loads, and stress is anything that knocks the body out of homeostasis or knocks the body out of balance. Remember, our body's always designed to work in harmony or in balance. So think of if our blood pressure is too high, bad things happen. If it's too low, bad things happen. If our blood sugar is too high, bad things happen. If it's too low, bad things happen. So everything is designed to have a specific harmony balance. And it's when we get knocked out of that homeostasis, that's when bad things happen. So let's talk about fish oils. Let's just talk about omega-3s versus omega-6. Today, people are getting way too much omega-6 in relationship to their omega-3s. So why don't you talk about that, Paula?
Well, that's the new latest and greatest thing that's out there. Everybody's talking about seed oils. I mean, my goodness gracious, it's like the thing. There's always something that somebody's on the bandwagon of. So everything I'm listening to, it's like seed oils are the devil. Seed oils are the devil. And whereas it used to be sugar or glyphosate or whatever, but seed oils are basically like cottonseed oil, canola oil, any oil that is processed, safflower oil, corn oil. I mean, all of these oils cause inflammation in the body, period. End of story. They're in pretty much every single processed food that you eat. And if you have too high of those omega-6s and you don't have enough omega-3, you will be chronically inflamed. You will be chronically inflamed. Please, please, please watch your food. Don't eat the processed junk. Look at the oil in your processed food. That's why if you buy potato chips, go out and buy the ones with coconut oil, go out buy the ones with avocado oil, olive oil. Try not to get those other oils, the canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, corn oil. Those are really bad. So, and I know that they don't have a lot of processed food out there right now that has the good oils in it, but they are out there. So if you can do one thing for your body, just eat clean, try to get organic food as much as you possibly can, because it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. So when it comes to omega-3s, the best source is fish. So fish oils are definitely the best. So like your salmon is awesome if you want to eat real food, like real salmon. Other times you really want to be able to get a good clean fish oil. Now, the two components to a good fish oil would be high DHA and high EPA. Now, there are fish oils out there that don't have those, that have minimal amounts of those, and then those will inflame you. Now, that's in the news right now in the news. They're saying fish oils are causing cardiovascular disease. This is why. These are the ones they're looking at, the fish oils that are the crappy ones that come from a really bad source and do not have the high EPA or DHA. So it's important. Not every single fish oil is created the same. So this is why I like to test people, and I like to only use good quality products that will actually help decrease the inflammation in the body, and we can increase that the omega-3 to omega-6. So getting out those seed oils, they consider them seed oils, getting those out of your diet and increasing your omega-3s. So getting your goods, salmon's probably one of the best things, to get those good omega-3s in your diet. Also, flax has good omega-3s. It has a lot of benefits to it, flax oil, especially in menopause and perimenopause. That's really a good time to have flax in your diet.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I
good,
definitely like the fish oils.
yeah, good
Certainly.
oils are so great for controlling inflammation. Let's talk about like some of the best oils to eat: avocado oil, olive oil. What are some of your favorites?
Well, there's controversy around the avocado oil quality right now, so I'm not quite sure if I can get behind that 100%. But really, really good quality extra virgin olive oil would be good. I kind of like those olive oil stores because I think they are higher quality. Like just a lot of different towns have these olive oil stores, so really important to get. They have them imported from Italy and these different places that have higher quality olive oil. That's very healthy. Coconut oil is usually very good to cook with. I personally love just grass-fed butter as far as cooking with grass-fed butter. I mean, I love it. Even if you can take like white rice and you cook with and put a little coconut oil in there when you're cooking, or some butter, that really helps to add flavor to it. Plus, it gives you the good oils that you need. So I would say ghee, which is basically clarified butter, taking out the fat of butter. I love, and that's a real Ayurvedic. So in India, they use a lot of ghee, That's their thing. Coconut oil, I'd say for most people, coconut oil, olive oil, don't cook with it because it's too, excuse me, it's too sensitive. So it's sensitive to heat. So it's got a low heat point, set point. So don't cook with olive oil. People usually don't realize that. Cook with your coconut oil and I would say the coconut oil and just grass-fed butter are the two things I like to cook with overall. Is there anything else you can?
Yeah, I think one of the challenging things is whether you're talking about supplements or some of these oils. Unfortunately, there's some companies, and of course, when things get hot, certain companies try and jump on the bandwagon, so to speak. And what happens is a lot of times the quality gets poorer and poorer, and the consumer doesn't know any better. And when a lot of times when people are coming in and they've got a bag full of supplements, and either they're poor quality supplements or their body just cannot process that many nutrients. And that's kind of one of the benefits of obviously getting tested on a regular basis, is just identifying how can I be as efficient as possible, taking everything I need, nothing more, nothing less, and then just making sure you're getting good quality nutrients and ingredients. And so a lot of times you have to know where your source is coming from. But another thing too is and some people think it's kind of a pain in the butt, which I would say probably I would agree with it. But if you can do a little bit of a food log where you're actually writing down what you're eating and then how you feel after you eat, that's one of the easiest things you can do. Because if you eat something and you don't feel well, it's your body's way of telling you that there's probably something there that inflamed your body. Okay, let's talk about gallbladder, Paula, liver and gallbladder, and just some of the things that we see on a regular basis with gallbladder issues.
Well, the reason we want to talk about that is because it is a major cause of inflammation in the body is the liver. The liver is what processes a lot of the toxins in our that come into our body. So it's really important to understand that can affect the heart. It can affect many different things. So keeping that liver clean is always a really good thing. The liver has a biliary system. So you have these ducts. And so you have gallbladder duct and liver ducts, but it's important to understand that those can become sluggish. So if those are sluggish, that means you're not being able to get the toxins out of the liver and gallbladder. It's the second part of the digestive system. So you look at the first part is really the stomach, pancreas, and then you move into the liver and the gallbladder. So it's another huge part of digestion, but that's also about absorbing nutrients. That's about swelling. So people that have a lot of swelling, like their body swells a lot, is a lot of times the liver that is swollen. It's just not able to process all the toxic load that it has. So it's really important in order to keep that liver gallbladder happy, that make sure that you get, obviously staying away from the seed oils as much as possible, eating organic food again, as much as possible, and making sure you get your organic greens in to kind of clean everything out. That's really important. And then there's, sometimes people need bile salts because their gallbladder is just really sluggish. And you might have like gallstones and things like that can cause inflammation. So liver stones, gallstones, which is basically an imbalance of minerals. It's too much calcium, not enough phosphorus. So it's really an important thing to understand that it is preventable. It's having a good diet and then making sure your minerals are in balance will help to ward those things off. Really important.
Yeah, I think the one thing is minerals are probably one of the most overlooked components. Everyone always thinks about their vitamins, but we need 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids. And we take a look at the macro minerals. We have our calcium, but then we have to have adequate magnesium. So calcium, magnesium that's where the dance is, and then sodium and potassium, those are electrolytes. And so when we take too much of one thing, we can upset that balance and that harmony. And that's typically what we see a lot of people doing is they'll read an article or they'll hear a podcast and someone might be talking about X nutrient. They're like, oh yeah, I need to be taking that because they did this study on this and it showed promising results. Well, you know, it's your biochemistry and everyone's different. And so we have to be very careful at just saying this one supplement or this one diet, this one size fits all is the best for everyone, because it really isn't. It's one of those things we really have to take into consideration. Exercise, when it comes to exercise, the big thing is we just want to make sure you're moving your body on a regular basis. and I think when it comes to exercise today, most people get fixated on just burning calories rather than the quality of their movement and also making sure their movement is pain-free. If your movement is not pain-free, your body's trying to communicate to you. Your muscles are designed to absorb force. So whether you're bending down to pick something up, a heavy object, or you're squatting down and your knees hurt or your back hurts, it's your body's way of telling you you have inflammation. And so either that inflammation is coming systemically, uh, or you could have muscle imbalances, and then your movement that you're doing, your muscles are not able to absorb the force, and therefore it will end up in your joints. So the big thing is we want to make sure when you are moving, you find exercises that you can do that are pain-free. And then one of the best things you can possibly do is just walking. And that is one thing that is easy to do. Just moving your body, preferably we're looking at about 7 to 10,000 steps on a regular basis we want to get. But then when it comes to like strength training, we have to squat, we need to bend, we need to do a pushing movement, a pulling movement, and then some sort of twisting movement. That's how our body's really designed to work. But again, if you're in pain, it's your body's way of communicating that something is inflamed. So managing the stress, we talked a little bit about cortisol, and let's just see. Does anyone have any questions so far on anything? See if there's anything that comes in the chat, anything at all. Otherwise, let's get into sleep, Paula. Sleep is basically our body's way to recharge, recover, regenerate. And what we're looking for on a regular basis is about 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night that we need. So Paula, let's just quickly talk about some strategies that people can maybe implement, whether it's the temperature, using a sleep mask to make sure your room is dark, it's cool.
Mhm.
What's the optimal temperature we want to see people sleeping at?
65 to 67 degrees is optimal to get your best sleep. A lot of people think that's cold, but you will get your best sleep if you're cool. If you're hot, you are not going to get good sleep. So sleep is the number one thing to keep your stress levels low. So it's really important. With us, we probably look absolutely nuts. We have our sleep masks on. We've got our mouth taped. We have mouth tape to try to keep our mouth closed. So we only do our nose. We only breathe through our nose. We have our sleep mask on. We have our room cold. So all these things that we really, I mean, we are out of town, and it's like we had the place we were staying at was pretty bright. And so for us, we both had our sleep masks on so that we weren't getting light into our eyes at night. Both had the mouth tape, kept it cold. So all those important things. There are a lot of different tracking devices as well. And I really, really, really like there's a lot of them that have a lot of electromagnetic radiation in them, which is like the Apple Watch. I just hate that Apple Watch. It causes so much stress on the body. I do not recommend those Apple Watches, and especially these young kids should not be wearing these Apple Watches. If you have anybody with an Apple Watch, at least put it on airplane mode. It will still track a lot, but people are sleeping with those on. I'm like, no, this is not good. There are other devices such as the Oura Ring, which has very, very low EMFs, which tracks your sleep. It literally tracks your stress throughout the day. You can say, oh, I ate, and all of a sudden my stress levels went through the roof. Oh, I had whatever happened, and you can see my stress levels went up, and it didn't go back down. Like my body stayed stressed from that particular thing that I had, whatever the situation was that you had. But it also tracks and then there's another one called the Whoop, which is a lot of people like that one because that one's it's actually a wrist. So it's almost like it's like a wristband versus a ring. So those are probably my two favorite, but the tracking, I think tracking is a really important thing. I mean, I always look at it and say, okay, if I have coffee past 1 o'clock, my sleep numbers, like all my sleep parameters are way worse, which is not good for me. If I, so I can see and I can feel a difference that next day. Also, I notice a difference if I eat late, dramatic difference in how I sleep, my deep sleep, my REM sleep all goes through right down to the, down the tubes, as well as alcohol. Alcohol affects your deep sleep, your REM sleep. So really important that you understand that, like, how are things affecting your body? But it makes you less apt to do those things, like drink caffeine at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I go, I don't think I want to because my HRV will be off. HRV is like, it's called heart rate variability. It's the variability of beats between the beats of your heart. That's really important. So you want a fluctuation in the variability of your heart rate. When I don't, when I eat too late, or if I have caffeine too late, it's literally flat, which is really not good for your health. So it's like, it's really helps me to stay on track and say, hey, maybe I don't want to be doing these things because I know my numbers are going to be terrible and I'm not going to feel as good the next day. So like Rob said, but those things, so not eating within 3 hours of going to bed, not getting caffeine past noon for a lot of people. Those are huge. Doing the sleep mask, doing the mouth tape. So a lot of people don't maybe understand about mouth tape, but the mouth tape is, they have different kinds. So they have ones that just kind of has a little X here. So you're not like feeling like you're suffocating. I recommend starting with that. You can even get those like on Amazon. There was one that's my sister found that's like a hypoallergenic one if you're sensitive to like latex and things like that and glues or whatever. But it's like a light one. And then Rob likes the big one that just literally tapes the whole mouth completely closed. So I don't like that as much. I just like to have that light where it's just kind of holding your lips together. And nasal breathing is huge. So if you're breathing through your mouth, a lot of times you're hyperventilating. So you're over breathing at night, which is not going to give you that deep sleep and is really bad for your teeth. Your teeth can actually, you can, yeah. Anyways, you can have a lot of ortho issues because of your teeth by breathing through your mouth. So there's many different things, cold room, sleep mask, mouth tape, track your device. If you decide you want to track it, I recommend the Whoop or the Oura Ring. Those are great devices to track. So is there anything else you can think of around sleep?
Well, the one thing in terms of a wearable, like Paula was saying, the Apple Watch, just because of the electronics it emits, the body works best on something called the MENS cycle, and it stands for minimal electrical neuromuscular stimulation. And so what happens is it creates cellular miscommunication. So it's too much. It's like an inappropriately placed battery in your body. And Paul and I use the Oura Ring, which is really nice. But the beautiful thing about having a wearable is what gets measured gets managed. And so when you can look at certain data, certain numbers, then it's like, okay, what's my strategy to improve it? If I'm not getting sleep, I can actually see that. And then I can take a look, kind of reverse engineer my day. What did I do? Like Paula was saying, alcohol or eating too heavy of a meal before I go to bed. But sleep is such a critical component of our wellness, and breathing is a critical component of our wellness. And that's the reason why we use the mouth tape, because it facilitates nasal breathing, which has an incredible amount of properties to optimize your parasympathetic activity. If you're mouth breathing, it tends to increase respiration. You overwork all these accessory respiratory muscles in your neck, your jaw, your shoulders. It can lead to shoulder problems, neck problems, TMJ, chronic headaches. So we want to really be focusing on breathing through our nose. And we think about if we're sleeping 7 to 9 hours and we're breathing through our mouth, that creates a number of negative physiological responses. So mouth taping, as goofy as it sounds, it's our whole family does it. Paula, myself, and our daughter. She's been mouth taping for I think 7 years, and we all notice a significant difference. So we do have a question here, Paula. I've had terrible back pain, maybe from yard work, but I think I have an imbalanced muscle or organ. So with low back pain, it can be
Oh,
everything from systemic inflammation. When you have gut inflammation, your muscles that support and stabilize your spine are married to the same organs that they share nerve innervation with. So if your gut is inflamed, what happens, it's like a hose is being kinked. You're not getting adequate flow to those core stabilizing muscles, and then those muscles shut down and they weaken, they become inhibited. So gut inflammation is super important with that. We also see a lot of people that have constipation because of the colon. That's going to create that inhibition of that musculature. So many times when someone has a low back problem, it's just the muscles that support and stabilize the spine have become inhibited. And it's not just as easy as doing some core work, because if it was, you could do just a bunch of stomach crunches and have a nice flat stomach and no low back pain. So very specific sequencing and exercises for the low back. But the big thing is when it comes to the core is we have to make sure our digestion is optimal, because what supersedes everything is our internal organs. The name of the wristband that Paul was talking about was the Whoop strap.
yeah.
So that's another good one. The reason why we really love the ring is it's super light. You don't even notice you've got it on, and it has low levels of electromagnetic frequencies. So
Can I say something about the back pain?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if it's not low back pain, say it's mid back pain or upper back pain, that can also be like the heart can cause like an upper back pain. Like if you have an issue like between your shoulder blades, that can be due to the heart or lung imbalances going on there. So, and if you have upper neck pain, that can be more due to a thyroid imbalance, as well as a parathyroid imbalance. So I see a lot of parathyroid imbalances within menopausal women have a lot of parathyroid. That's where the body uptakes vitamin D and calcium into your bones. So if you have an imbalance there, that can definitely lead to neck pain, and that would be like the glands that could cause that. In the mid back would be that heart, lung, and then low back, like Rob said, is going to be a lot of digestive issues, but it can also be an imbalance of your uterus, your bladder, which I see a lot as well as your ovaries. So like that, the female and male reproductive is low back, so they can be
Yeah, I mean,
imbalanced on all
and
of
of course, this is where it gets a little more complex, because if someone has uterine pain or bladder issues, they share the same nerve reflexive field as the deep core muscles. So again, anytime there's inflammation in those areas, it inhibits those core stabilizing muscles. So that's the one thing, guys. If we have internal inflammation in any of our internal organs, that is because they don't have pain receptors, is going to reflex to muscles that share the same nerve innervation. So I had a lady the other day who came in. She actually is a therapist and a trainer. She probably has like 15 different certifications, very knowledgeable. She had all this left hip pain, and she was doing massage. She was doing self massage. She was doing red light therapy. Nothing was getting rid of the pain. And when I assessed her, it was her left hip So I said, well, it's either your left ovary or your descending colon. And sure enough, it was her descending colon. So I massaged her descending colon. I used a frequency with a microcurrent on it. And then she also had 2 trapped emotions in her descending colon. So that took me about 15 minutes. I got done with that. I did not touch her left hip at all. And then I went in to massage or palpate in her left hip. The pain was gone. And so that's why it's not just, we can't just isolate or compartmentalize a muscle. And Paul and I have been saying this since the day we opened our business. If we're not assessing, then we're guessing. And nobody wants to guess with their health. I mean, a lot of times we've got a pretty good idea of what's causing the problem, but again, who wants to guess with their health? So then we got one more question. Do they track activity? Yes, they do track activity, the wearables. So it's going to give you your steps. What's that? Okay.
Somebody there.
So in a nutshell, guys, what we want to talk about is getting some feedback here. Hold on. Okay, there it is. I don't know if you guys can hear that feedback as well.
Yeah,
Can you?
I can hear you. You have feedback going
Okay.
on.
All right. So in a nutshell, guys, it's all about controlling inflammation, and there are multiple variables that affect inflammation. There's a number of things that we can do on a regular basis. We got to get back to fundamentals. Always make sure your fundamentals are covered. Are you breathing properly? Are you getting sufficient water? Are your bowels moving? Are you moving your lymph on a regular basis? Are you establishing a regular sleep hygiene schedule? And that includes temperature. It includes lighting. Guys, I tell you what, it's ridiculous how Paula and I look when we go to bed with our mask and our mouth tape. But you know what? In the end, it's all about optimizing the quality of our sleep so we can optimize our health. And the good thing is nobody sees us. So when you're in the privacy of your own house, you can look pretty goofy. But again, it's all about what are we doing on a regular basis to optimize our health. And so we are going to send you out some additional information that you guys can read through on controlling inflammation. And if you have any questions, again, just call our office, 952-220-7201. If you want to really get dialed in and identify, what are the best foods for you? What's the best supplementation? If you're struggling with sleep or you're not breathing properly, you got joint pain, give us a call. And we've got such a great community. We are so grateful for each and every one of you guys. We often tell people what makes our business special is not us, but our clients. We learn so much from our clients every day and every week. Our clients are very, very, very knowledgeable, and we love learning from our clients, and we love educating our clients. And our whole objective is to help lift each other so we can enjoy our lives the way we want to enjoy them. So thank you so much for everyone who attended tonight. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office. And again, we're so grateful for each and every one of you guys. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the office or if we talk to you on the phone. So, all right. That's all for tonight. Paula, do you have anything you wanna end with?
No, thank you all. Thank you all for watching this tonight and taking time out of your lives to educate yourself more on your health. And we look forward to seeing the progress that all of you make. And yeah, I think it's pretty interesting when you look at it. But the most important thing you can do is take your health seriously. It's the only thing you have as you get older. So you have to do the things that you need to live the life you want as you age. So anyways, thank you all again. And we will look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks,
All
you
right.
guys.
Night,
Great topic.
guys.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.